Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to Iron Anchor Cycles. So I don't know how many of you have been impatiently waiting as long as I have to see our 2003 Sportster chopper get completed, but the time has finally come. We've got our tins back from paint and we're ready to do the final assembly on this bike, and that is what this video is gonna be all about. We're gonna get right into this bike. We're gonna get our fuel tank on, oil tank, rear fender, front fender, oil lines, fluids, finish up the wiring, get it all done, and we're gonna get this bike running. We're gonna jump into this right now. I've got other projects we're working on in the shop right now, push some things aside to get this bike finished. Hopefully you guys are excited about it as I am. This has been a project that's been months in the works, and we got it almost done in the last video, and in this video we are finally gonna get it finished. So I'm not gonna do any more talking. If you guys don't know this project, check up here. I'll leave a link to the playlist. You can get caught up and you can see the whole thing from a stock bike to where we are right now, and then come back to this video and see it and hear it run. So let's get into it and start to get this bike finished. All right, so I think the plan of attack is we're gonna start with getting the rear fender, sissy bar, and tail light hooked up. So first step in that is to get this rear wheel out of the way so we can get the fender bolted in. So we're gonna start there and we'll see how it goes. All right, so here is our beautiful new rear fender, all nice and covered in fingerprints, ready to go in. So we're gonna get it bolted in at the bottom. We've got a top point here, and then we gotta get the sissy bar and do that as well. So we're gonna make it happen. All right, so there is part one. Now I gotta grab the sissy bar. We've got the hardware for that. We'll get that bolted in before we tighten any of this stuff down. Can't remember if I showed you guys this before or not, the sissy bar after polish. This looks so good. Looks like chrome. Really, really awesome. All right, well, fender, nope. Fender, sissy bar, looking good. So what I wanna do now is get this wire for the tail light run. We've got two little grommets to go in the holes that we drilled. We still gotta run a tap through our seat screw hole here. We'll do that before we get the tire on. And we gotta get our tail light wired in, and we'll be making progress. All right, so got that run through. Got plenty of extra slack here. Let's get the tail light and get that figured out. All right, so this is just something super cool I wanted to show you guys. So the Prism Supply tail light, you guys will remember, I took it apart, popped the lens off in the back case, and pulled the LED unit out of it. Obviously, this comes for standard wiring, so you've got a ground, a running light, and a brake light. If you remember from the wiring video, we've got one wire that's gonna control everything. So we need to switch this from 3 wires to 1. So we disassemble this to get in there to make that connection. And on any light, you know, you could do that. You get in there, you do a little cutting, splicing, soldering, but look at what Prism Supply does on the inside of their light. First of all, it's all got instructions on here telling you how to do it. They know you're gonna go in here and do this, and the instructions on how to get these wires out and what to do are right on here. They also, rather than soldering these wires onto the circuit board, use terminals. So all we have to do is click, 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 pull these wires out, stick our new wire in through the case, obviously, and boom, we've got one wire super clean, no solders, no tape, no cuts, no nothing. This is awesome. So big shout out to Prism Supply on this. I'll leave a link in the description if you guys want to get one of these lights. All right, well, this is installed. I guess, let's see if it works before I get it all buttoned up. All right, so I'm gonna go click on. So we got tail light, and then we should have, well, we're not gonna actually be able to do the brake light because if I hit the rear brake, the caliper is just gonna compress. But let's just assume that because we've got one light, that it's all gonna work. We'll have to check that finally once the rear wheel is on. All right, so I'm gonna leave this open for right now. The bolts that came with it are a little long for my liking, and also these nuts that are on the back, I wanna swap for nicer ones. So I'm gonna leave this uncovered for now, and we'll just put this light on, or the lens on, once I get slightly shorter bolts and some different nuts. So we're gonna call that done for now. We will get this seat screw hole thread chased, and we'll stick our rear wheel back in. We can test the light again and see how this is starting to look. All right, well, I'm actually gonna hold off putting on the rear wheel for right now because I'm impatient and I wanna see the oil tank go on. So here is our oil tank with the replica of the 100th anniversary stripe that matches the real one that's on the fuel tank. I think this came out really cool, just having this wrap around here to kind of tie the two tanks together. So we've got a couple of fittings put on the bottom of the tank here. So we've got our supply, our vent, and our return. So I'm gonna get this kind of stuck in here. We'll get it bolted down, and then we'll start running some oil lines. Well, I don't know about all you guys, but I think this looks absolutely killer. This is exactly how I imagined it looking when I was kind of thinking about how this was gonna come together, and this just looks so good. So the stripe, the black paint, all that, I just really dig it. Obviously hides all of our battery stuff up here really well, and now I just have to start to get these oil lines run. So I've got this oil line connected to the supply output of the tank. So that's gonna run down here and connect onto our oil pump. Then we have to run our return from over here to here, and then our vent from here to here. The way I think I'm gonna route these oil lines, that's why I left this clamp on here on the starter. This is where the oil lines originally were routed, right through here. So I think I'm just gonna do the same thing and just run them all right through there. So we'll see how that looks and how that goes, and hopefully we'll have some oil lines on here in no time. All right, so got the oil lines routed. I've got only 2 lines running through this clamp. That's actually how it is on the OE setup. I double checked that. So got our return running here and our vent running here. Used the like OE style crimp clamps on all of these. And then the supply line comes from the other side, kind of down behind the primary, under the motor, and then right in here. So very hidden, looks good. In the case of this oil tank, there is no drain on it to do your oil changes. So I was thinking about what the easiest way to do that is, and obviously the supply side of the tank is what they intend for you to use as the drain when you need it. And I don't know if their intention was to have you put like an extra fitting in here or something like that, but I just didn't like the way that was gonna look. I looked at some options. So what I decided is, and I'm not sure if it's gonna be the right answer or not, but it's what we're gonna go with for now, is I used one of those sort of permanent style crimp clamps on the tank. But down here on the pump, I use just a screw worm clamp. So this line is pretty easily removable from the pump, and obviously gonna make a little bit of a mess draining the oil. We should be able to get a pan under there and be able to do an oil change pretty easily. Given that this is a new motor, I'm gonna have to do an oil change very soon on it, so we'll know in short order whether or not this is gonna be a good solution, and if I've gotta change something on that, I'll do it. So from here, the next step would be to fill this thing up with oil and check for leaks, etc. But I'm gonna not do that because again, I'm impatient and I wanna keep seeing what this bike's gonna look like. So we're gonna skip ahead to putting the fuel tank on and starting to get a real good look at the final product of this bike. All right, so looks like I lied again. Instead of putting the tank on, decided to put the front fender on. Didn't need to show you that, just 4 bolts, it goes on. And got our rear wheel put back on. I was gonna put the tank on like I said, then I realized we actually misplaced the bushings for the tank mounts. I could show that to you. So here on both sides and then on the rear as well on both sides. There's rubber bushings that go in here to isolate the tank from the bike. And I don't know what happened to those. Either I took them out, I think I did, and misplaced them, or left them in by accident and they got lost when I went to get painted. I don't know. Really nothing to report on the tank though, by the way. This is the original paint. The only reason it went out was because there were a couple chips in the clear coat up here that we needed to get fixed. So that's all done. So I think what we're gonna do now, in an effort to keep moving before tomorrow morning when we get those bushings, is I think it's time to get this pipe on. I was holding off on doing that until we got the oil tank in, just to give ourselves as much room as possible. And with what a tight fit that was getting in there, I'm glad I did. So now I think we can go ahead and put the pipe on. So we've got our custom bracket down here at the bottom. Should be, hopefully, fingers crossed, pretty easy to connect that up at the top, connect it at the bottom, and it should fit pretty good. So let me grab that and we'll see how it goes. All right, well, I think so far, as part of this last round of installation, I think the pipe so far has been the easiest thing to get on, which is a little bit surprising, honestly. Really just kind of went right in there where we had it. That bracket's in the perfect spot. Everything lined up perfectly. We've got all the clearances we need. We're a little close to this, banjo fitting back here, but I knew that was gonna be the case. That's why this line, other than getting hit by the chain, is pointed up and away to try and keep the vinyl part away from the pipe. But just gonna keep an eye on it and hope for the best, but I think it's gonna be okay. Other than that, I think we're good there. So just trying to think of the little punch list stuff we can do to knock out before we grab those grommets tomorrow and get the tank on. I think for right now, I can get some oil put in here. So I'm gonna do that and I'll get cleaned up and I think we'll just get ready to pick back up tomorrow, which will be right after we get oil in here for you guys, but for us, it'll be in the morning. So stick around and hopefully we'll have this thing fired up pretty soon. All right, well, got my tank grommets and got the little metal caps here installed. And grommets are just the rubber pieces on the inside. You get these little caps that go in on there. Got all 4 of those in. Let's go ahead and put this tank on. All right, well, there it is. That is a 99.9% complete bike. I went ahead and just threw the seat up here. The 0.1% that still has left to be done is I need a little piece to go under the seat, between the seat and the fender, to protect the fender. I'm not wild about this way the seat was designed. It came with the hardtail from Throttle Addiction. It's a seat and it looks like a seat, but it's really not designed to properly go on a bike. It's got this metal piece that's not recessed into the seat, doesn't have any fabric over it, and it's got rivet heads sticking out the bottom of it. So if you actually, screw this down, you're gonna be putting those rivets right into your paint on the fender. So we came up with something to go under there. I just don't have it yet. It's made, it's just not here, but that's not gonna stop us from getting this bike started. So everything else is buttoned up. We've got oil in the tank. I got the lens put back on the taillight here. Got my new ARP nuts for the back side of this. Got our license plate on the other side. I'll show you that. It's pretty cool, something special. Just got to put some fuel in here and get this motor fired up. Now, obviously, if this was just a stock motor, I wouldn't be hesitating at all. This thing would probably be running already, but because it's a brand new motor, new pistons, rings, cylinders, we have to be very careful about the break-in procedure, and we've got to do some heat cycles. So I'm gonna get ready to do that. We'll get the camera set up for that as well. Don't want you guys to miss that. We'll show you the very first start where we let it run for just a few seconds, and then we'll go through and let it run some more. And then we won't show you the whole the whole heat cycling process, just because it takes a long time. But once we get to a point where we can actually run it a little bit and let you hear what it's gonna sound like for longer than just a few seconds, we'll come back for that. So stick around and I don't know, maybe we'll have this bike on the dyno to do the break-in. But we definitely wanna know how much power it makes, but just not sure we're gonna find that out today. But one way or the other, we're gonna hear this run and we're gonna hear it run good, so stick around. All right, well, here goes nothing. Ready for our very first startup. We're gonna let it run for 10 seconds. Hopefully it fires right off. and we'll run it for 10 seconds. I'm gonna time it here on my phone, and we'll see how it goes. I got gas in there. Let's make it happen. Close. Sounds like an exhaust leak, maybe. All right, that was our first run. Definitely got some noise there. Sounds like it's coming from the rear. Do a little digging around. Also won't sort of run. You gotta pull the throttle. Maybe just gotta turn the idle up a little bit. I'm not sure where that screw is. But yeah, I'm gonna let it cool off, see if I can figure out what's going on here. Start it again. All right, well, there you have it. Sportster is alive, she runs, and she runs good. I guess you probably saw in that first start we did where we only ran it for about 10 seconds, there was a noise which I thought was maybe an exhaust leak, but what turns out is really just some top-end noise, probably came from one of the lifters on the rear that had bled down from, you know, kind of sitting for a few weeks or more while we were waiting to get the motor fired up from having done the install. So that went away. Once we let it run for longer than 10 seconds, motor quieted down, and I'm sure you saw in the next couple of clips that it sounds great. Haven't had it off of idle yet. We've got some more heat cycling we have to do on it, and then we got to get it on the dyno and, you know, do all of that. But I think for today, this is where we're going to end this video. We got the thing finally fully put together. I think it came out incredibly awesome. This is exactly the image that was in my head when I came up with this idea 6 months ago, and it came out exactly how I was hoping. So I'm excited to get the motor dialed in and get it broken in so we can get it out on the street and ride it a little bit. But for the purposes of the build, let's call it, it's 100% done, and it is awesome. So I really appreciate you all watching and sticking around through the whole series of this, for those of you that did. And hopefully we'll have another cool project to do for you guys soon, another build. I've got some ideas in my head, so we'll see what happens. And in the meantime, we'll keep doing the other stuff. We'll show you customer work, some of the other things we're doing, but we should have a lot of great stuff coming up for you guys in the next, couple weeks and months. So I guess that's gonna do it, and we'll see you on the next one.